Okay, I did it. I played Wingspan. I know that if I'm starting a board game channel, I can't really not have played some of the classics. So I want to give a thanks to Aggie and Patrick and Josh this weekend in lovely Conisbrough, England, for helping me play my first game of Wingspan. My family loves Wingspan. My sister loves Wingspan. I feel like there's not that many games my sister really wants to play all the time, and Wingspan is one of them. Oh, now I can play online with them because they play online. I think on the Switch or something like that. So I'm down. I'm happy to play Wingspan with anybody that wants to play it. I played it, and now I can start my board game channel. So you've probably played Wingspan. If you haven't played Wingspan, somebody will probably tell you to play Wingspan if you want to get into the board game hobby. It seems just from the stuff you hear about it and the context that it's one top 5 most influential games in board game history, in the sense that it has gotten a lot of people into board gaming. It has gotten a lot of women into board gaming. It has been very copied a lot in terms of its theme. It seems to be one of the games that really opened up an entire genre of nature-based games. I feel like it helped kickstart this sort of cozy game revolution that's happened. Now, I say this as someone who's really only been back into board gaming for the last 6 months or so. So in a big way, I don't feel qualified to talk about where Wingspan sits in the context of the last 10 years. I will say it's a newer game than I thought. I think because of the pandemic and the way the last 5 to 10 years have gone, our sense of how time works is a little skewed, because as someone who's sort of paid attention to board gaming for a while, bought board games for many, many years, but never really played them nearly as much as I have this year. I played more this year than I ever have my whole life. As someone who is really immersed in this hobby right now, it feels like Wingspan is one of the perennials. It feels like Wingspan is with Dominion, Axis and Allies, Catan, Wingspan, but it's not. It's only about 5 or 6 years old. And so looking back at the history, I just watched a Shut Up and Sit Down review of it from 5 years ago. A review from June 2020. It does seem like it probably really benefited from the pandemic, in the sense that it was this, whatever you mean by cozy game, meaning you could sit down with it with yourself or one other person, the person that you were in your little COVID bubble with, and play a game that during a time when it was fine for things to take 1 to 3 hours with no discernible effect on your life. To have a nice time for 3 hours or 2 hours was a real selling point in 2020. It's wild now. There are times now I really wish I could go back to that time when, think about it, for months on end, no one expected anything of you. And, it's almost as if we had been told at the time, hey, it's going to be like this for about between 12 months to 2 years, and then it's going to stop, and then real life's going to resume again. I think we would have treated it differently. I remember at the time feeling, oh, is this ever going to end? When are we just going to get to the next thing? When are we going to get the next, fake vaccine? Just kidding. Anyway, I can see why at the time that this very beautifully made game about attracting birds to your aviary was a really, really valuable thing to people. So if you haven't played Wingspan, in it, you're trying to attract birds to your enclosure, to your aviary. You put out food to attract them. You play cards that represent the birds. You put them in your little play area. And then the birds that you have let you do stuff. And the more birds you put down, they can sort of help you do things more effectively. We could get into the mechanics of it, but if you haven't played Wingspan, none of it would mean anything to you. And I've tried to play Wingspan 4 times before. I had a copy of it in 2021 or so and ended up giving it away because I never played it. And then I have a copy of it now back home in Los Angeles, and I'll definitely take it out and play it again. I've had a digital version of it on, I think, Steam for 4 years, and I've gone through that tutorial multiple times and it just never clicked. I will say in the digital version, the 3 regions the 3 habitats where you place birds are sort of presented in sort of a 3D way, which I don't think actually helps. Maybe you have to do that because of the digital implementation, but having a nice little play mat in front of you with your 3 habitats, and after not too much explanation, pretty clear idea of filling the spaces makes these actions better for you. The cycle of what to do on each turn clicked for me. I will say I'm kind of surprised that this ended up being a gateway game for so many people, because I find it to be pretty fiddly. I'd say after a couple of turns, like it made sense. It wasn't super complicated, but at the beginning it was a little like, man, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm either playing a bird to the play area, or I am collecting food, or I'm laying eggs, or I'm drawing cards. I'm also going for these 2 hidden objectives that I have, or I'm going for these round by round public objectives. I could very well see this being a lot to absorb for somebody who's trying to jump up to this from, like right now, let's say people are playing Uno, and then they're playing Monopoly and Risk, and then they maybe play Flip 7, maybe they play The Gang or something, and then they're like, well, I want to check out these more serious board games. I'm trying to think of like what the journey is from playing something like Risk or Monopoly up to this. Like, is there a game in between? Because this seems like a pretty, I don't know, seems like kind of a jump. Also, as somebody that's still, I'll tell you the context that like I'm as the channel mentions, I'm still a noob in this hobby, really. And I know that I'll probably feel differently about this statement a year from now. But I will say that I think some of you in the hobby underestimate how many board games kind of just seem like, hey, here's a way to make points, and here's a bunch of stuff you can do, and at the end we count up the points, and somebody wins. I mean, I've played a lot of games this year that are all very interesting in their own way, and they are all different. And I know that from a inside the hobby perspective, they're like vastly different. Wingspan is totally different from Raiders of the North Sea. The Raiders of the North Sea is a worker placement game, and this, I know that they are different. But it's interesting that so much of the hobby is dominated by this I'm getting victory points model. And maybe that is it inevitable? I'm just curious about it. I'm curious that so many of the games are about that. And I know that they're all different genres, right? But in a way, they all seem like the same genre. I don't know. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I do recommend watching that Shut Up and Sit Down video from 5 years ago, because I did agree with a lot of the stuff that Quinn said in that video. But I don't think it bothered me in quite the same way that it bothered Quinn's. It's a pretty in-depth but negative review of the game. And I would definitely play it again. For right now, I think it sits in the like, I'm not dying to play it again. I definitely want to play it again when I get home. I definitely will play it with Eric. But yeah, like I'm concerned that it might be too complicated, not for Eric to understand, but too complicated for that moment in the first 10 minutes when you're trying to teach somebody a game and their eyes sort of glaze over. However, I say this with the caveat that my eyes have glazed over during every single teach that I've gotten over the last month. Conventions, home games, whatever. And I will say that it is not a reflection of the person teaching or the quality of the game. My brain just sort of like starts to go into like, oh, I need to like think about this, and I get tired. So every single time someone has taught me a game in the last month, I have started yawning. I feel really bad about it, but it's like it's just not like, this is just my brain is doing this because I'm like trying to absorb what you're saying. But yeah, I definitely want to play it again. I'm sure you could get better at it. I think maybe the appeal of it is that it is. I think people do. In fact, one of the Josh, who had never played it before, said he also liked that it was very calm, which I agree with. And so I think that the appeal of it for me would be, so in the Shut Up and Sit Down video, one of the things Quinn says is that I think his main thing is like, it's a game that you're not even sure how to win. Like there's so many moving parts, and you're not really watching other people's boards. And so it's a game that if you cared about trying to win, but also, this is a valid point, if you care about when your little bird area just doesn't seem as like productive as other people's bird areas, and that it may or may not be your fault, because it could have just been the cards that were available to you and the resources that were available, because there's an amount of randomness in this, right? So if that makes you feel bad, then I think this game could make you feel bad. I don't really care that much about that. I never really, I guess a couple times I was like, whoa, how did you get so much stuff or whatever? But I wasn't really paying attention to the other boards, and I didn't really understand. Like, I understood what they're doing, but I didn't understand them in a way to think, oh, they're ahead of me somehow. It doesn't seem like it's designed. I almost feel like maybe that's criticizing Wingspan for something that it's just not designed to do. It's really not designed for you to be aware of how other people are doing and do something about it. In a way, maybe the point situation is just like this framework we hang around the game so that we can say it's a game and get people who play games to buy this game. But really, it's just like a little, like, let's just sit around and assemble bird collections together. And for the people that want to win a game, they can win the game. But for the people that just want to like hang out with their friends and like collect birds and lay eggs, then yeah, it doesn't matter if you come in third or fourth. And surprisingly, all four of our scores were really close. And so it seems like, and I mean, there are many, many decisions in the game where I was just like, I don't know, so I'll get this bird. I do think that something about the little bird expressions are very funny to me. Now before I played Wingspan about a month ago, I played Forest Shuffle, which is, kind of like, I know it's a different game, but I mean, like I'm quite aware that it's a very different game. But it is funny to me how many games are just like, hey, grab some animals and then count the points. And so I think I've always thought this about criticism, like media, or like media criticism or critical responses to the thing. I still don't know the answer to this, but I just know. I know this is true for 100%. I know that there's some part of us as human beings that responds to things that is not rational, that cannot be communicated literally or rationally to you. So, and unfortunately, I think sometimes reviews and stuff are reductive in a way that's like, oh, I can tell you the thing of like why this game is good or bad or what was mechanically wrong with it or whatever. I can only talk about how I feel about it, and it doesn't matter what someone says to you, because there's a thing about all art, and I do consider games to be art, that there is this ineffable quality to them that sometimes they just hit with you and sometimes they don't. And I could definitely see Wingspan being this, hitting a certain kind of energy that you have in your life at the moment where you just, you know what, I just want to sit at my table and collect birds. And yeah, maybe you'll beat me by 4 points. What does it mean anyway? Like there's not a victory track where you can like keep track of who's winning, right? So you are never in this game making decisions that are really about whether you're ahead or behind. in the game. So really, winning or not in Wingspan does not matter in the least. Like, the game is not designed in a way for you to control whether or not you win or lose. So I guess my recommendation to you, if you haven't played it, or at least I'm going to try to take this moving forward, is like, just play it and don't worry about winning or losing. And if you care about winning or losing in a game, then I think maybe Wingspan is not a good game for you to play. Certainly there's other games that are more competitive, like directly competitive. Even other, multiplayer solitaire Euro type games, there's more things where you're aware of what other people are doing, and there's certainly, it seems like there's other games where you can more directly try to block what people are doing so that you can do better. Or you can, for example, in Wingspan, if you're behind, it doesn't seem like there's really like hey, I'm going to do something risky. I'm going to try a real risky play. I'll talk in other videos about some of the other games we played, but we played Quacks as well, which I'd never played, which I loved. And we played The Old King's Crown, the game that I'm obsessed with currently. And in both of those games, if you're behind, you can push yourself. You can try to like throw resources at a last ditch attempt at something. But Wingspan doesn't really have that. I don't even know what you would do. I guess you would maybe try to go draw more cards to try to get a bird that really fit your thing. But there's not a lot of vectors in Wingspan that I think you could push to be like, oh, I'm behind. I really gotta do X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I could definitely. I guess I could just sum it up by saying Wingspan is a vibe.